Welcome back to the tavern, everybody. You are just in time to watch the third game of the day for our first lobby, where the players are scrambling to get those top 4 placements to make it through to tomorrow. My name is Gia, and still with me is, of course, Celissa, who is somebody with a lot of tournament experience herself. So, Celissa, when you're in this spot where it's the last game of the day for you, what changes about your mindset?
You have to keep yourself calm, cool, and collected, first of all. A lot of times in this type of game, you can get a bit tilted or fed up or whatever. So you just need to stay calm, cool, and collected. And then you have to determine where you need to go from there. You need to target who you need to target for max damage. You need to decide, do I need to take a greedy hero or play it safe? So you need to analyze a lot of different things with this hero selection, with minion type selection, with tripling selection too. It's just like, do I go greedy? Do I go safe? Who's left in the lobby? Just keeping tabs on everybody. There's a lot to think about on this game.
Very much so. And with our first 2 games of the day, we did have a pretty large diversity of comps making it to the top there, with Eliza Scam taking first in the first one, and then the more conventional, I want to say, Amalgadon Poison Divine Shield from Collins taking second place. But the big headline here is that it's Collins who has run away with consistent top 4 placements. In fact, a first and a second, just very impressive stuff. Whereas the top finishers from the first game of Zoinyu and Ponpada went out in 7th and 8th, I believe, in the second lobby. So evened out a little bit more and going more towards the middle of the pack. In terms of diversity of the meta, is there any comp that you're looking forward to seeing for the last game of the day?
I have not seen enough APM pirates for my liking. I know some players try to avoid it in tournaments because of cross-server play. It can be quite difficult to play on another server. So Hoggers, just haven't seen enough of that. We haven't seen any Gallywix shenanigans, which I, would love to see. So that's kind of stuff I'm looking forward to. But look what we got here. We got a patches, max 7 key here to make me proud. And we see he's gonna stay on tier 1, probably doing a Jeef curve because he played out his pirate on turn 1, which you wouldn't do if you're gonna go do a standard curve. Educated Collins on Mutinous, your favorite. Excited to see this, but there's no Mexin.
Yeah, no Mexin, so one less Divine Shield, but I still feel Mutinous is such a consistent powerhouse here, as long as you're able to guarantee that you build up a huge buddy in the early game, even if you have to float a lot of gold, just building up stats and taking high attack. If you find a Divine Shield or a Cleave down the line, or even an Impulsive Trickster, it can work out for you in the long run. Oh, triple hit shot. That is 100% bait, but I do want to call attention to our hero selection for this game, because look at this, so many greedy heroes. We have Patches, Tess, to a certain extent Millhouse. Silas is very greedy, trying to get towards that infinite state with the Golden Buddy. And then Elise as well, which is very capable of taking a first place if she can safely get to tier 6. This is sort of the side effect, I want to say, of players thinking that they need to get the big points to secure themselves through to tomorrow, because we have such a tight sort of middle of the pack point distribution here. I think people are really trying to go for that first and get the full 7 points.
Yeah, I see so many greedy heroes. Even Elise is considered greedy because she can really pop off when she power levels to 6, and her buddy is giving her 2 1-cost 6 drops every turn. So she is a greedy hero. So basically all greedy heroes, and we get to see the interaction with Tess and Cutter Butter, because they both have stealing buddy heroes. So they steal other people's buddies, and then they'll get all these buddies early. It's going to be a bit crazy, and I'm very excited to see it.
Right. You have Ponpada here on the Silas, and at the beginning of this lobby, you were talking about how you're wanting to see APM Pirates and Gallywix players. There hasn't been a single one of those so far. I want to say thanks in no small part to the fact that intentional disconnects are banned from our tournament. That is against the official rules here. On ladder, it is very common to see players going for that trick to sort of extend their turn timer and skip animations, which really lends an advantage to APM-based comps and Gallywix in particular, but because that's not allowed here, I think players are placing less of a premium on it. Collins here probably feeling mostly safe because he has such a lead on the rest of the field in terms of his points, but still doing the very expected mutinous thing of stacking all of your stats together, going for a triple on the refreshing elemental as well, just to get all of the stats together, and he can still use his hero power every single turn to make sure that he gets essentially one big unit, because as Mutinous you definitely like to play as a one unit Andy for the majority of the early game. Make sure that when you get your buddy, which spits its stats onto 3 separate units when you devour it with the Mutinous hero power, you make sure that all of your stats on the first minion land on that buddy, so you get the biggest possible buff from the buddy.
I'm interested to see if he's going to be going for a 3-drop there, holding. I'd assume he's going for a 3-drop. And we can see over here on Tess, Tess has tripled into a Bronze Warden. A little bit interesting of a board, but Tess has a lot of opportunities to just steal what other people are doing. So Tess just keeps their eye out on what direction everyone's going, and you can kind of gauge your direction from there.
That's right. I generally favor playing Tess relatively safe in the early game until waiting out till people hit their power spikes, and then you just steal whatever they tripled into, or potentially their buddies as well. But it's a big deal that Tess ended up with no armor on this patch, I would say, where in the previous armor patch she did have it. So it's kind of in recognition. No. What's the noun for recognize? It's just recognizing that Tess is really strong in the meta right now.
Recognition?
Recognition. Yes, thank you.
There we go.
I was gonna say recognition, and I'm like,
honestly, your English is better than mine, but I'm glad I could help. Yeah, it's interesting to see Millhouse have armor. Like, to me, Millhouse is just like one of the best heroes, but he's sitting here with armor. He's just not in this meta.
Elise, however, with the maximum amount of armor at the beginning of the game, definitely makes her a lot more resilient, trying to get to that point where you can benefit from the cheap recruitment maps and discover those 6 drops. But for now, gonna be taking a bit of a beating here, because Tess does survive with the Bronze Warden, getting a lot of damage through for this point in the game. A little bit short of Buddy here, just a little bit of a percent, which is a bad feeling indeed. But the Millhouse with that same feeling of being so close yet so far. And unfortunately, no triples stocked up here, which is very unlikely to see.
Look at the buddy meter. It's that terrible feeling of like, oh, I just barely missed it. So the question is he going to be double leveling, which I believe is possible because of this elemental in hand, but there's 2 pairs in the shop. I mean, oh, it hurts.
Such an awkward spot, right? Because I feel like the Elemental is, I mean, you obviously buy that as Millhouse because it's essentially free, costs 2 and sells for 2, but the Red Whelp pair is one of, you can make the argument that it's the easiest to triple because nobody else is really buying those, I don't think, but it's just really not in the meta right now. Not even Ysera can make Red Whelp work at the moment. So I do feel this ends up being sell out of one other pair, go for the Elemental pair, and then level.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. Is he gonna level? I mean, okay.
Okay.
He could have used a roll to see another triple, but decides just to float the gold and gets the buddy quite instantly. So yeah, he's doing the play here that Gia talked about earlier, where you're just staying on 1 to farm as many triples as possible and then get to leveling for some direction.
That's right. He at least has the buddy now, and when you're stockpiling so many pairs and staying on tier 1 as Millhouse, it makes sense because every single minion is going to be rerolls on 1 drops with that Magnus Mana Storm, and we do get to see, for Caramon's sake, the pop-off turn. Okay, 2 triples already in the shop. However, the levels are going to be extremely expensive here. I'm not sure how he's going to approach it, but let's check in with Zephyrus.
Double Nomi!
Oh, yes.
So happy! Oh my gosh, and the chat rejoices. We have a double Nomi player in Zoinyu. Zoinyu just knows what the people want. The people want infinite pirates. The people want double Nomi.
And me, I am also one of the people. I want double Elemental in the shop, which guarantees 2 triples because the first golden Elemental, when sold, will put 2 water droplets in hand, which you can then triple with the water droplet from the 4th Elemental. This is so much triple potential from Caramon, but the question is, how does he approach the payoff on this? Is he going to go for 4 drops, 5 drops, and what distribution of each? He's taking at least 1 4-drop here to not be so weak in this upcoming fight. Ground Shaker is a great way to turn this board of weak minions into actual ones that can perhaps trade toe-to-toe with Max 7 Key on the patches. Max 7 Key really needs to make some miracles happen here. I feel like it's first or bust for him with 2 mediocre lobbies at the beginning, and he has an early Peggy, which is a nice setup, but I don't know if it's enough to win the fight.
Yeah, he's going to get his buddy this turn, so I think he's looking to triple into Bran. I'm curious to see if he has a triple waiting for him. Not sure if he does because I only see 1 pair. But yeah, so this is a turn where you could try to triple into Bran, and you could put your buddy on any minion type, so if you could find a cleave or something. But keep in mind there are no cleaves in this lobby. There's no beast, there's no mech, so we're going to see all these triples come to fruition from Caramon over here. I mean, I'm dreaming for a Nomi, but we know that for 2 of them are.
I know, right? One of our players answered that they have Elemental as their favorite minion. It is not Caramon here, but they are definitely wishing that they would be Caramon right here. So going for at least 1-5, no or less Nomis in the pool because we have Zephyrus, Zoe kind of hoarding them, but there is an option for a Tony.
That's interesting.
Do you just take the money or hope for the dream of maybe hitting a Peggy? Okay, he does take the Tony.
I think with the Avenge units on board and the possibility of more triples right here, you definitely want to look for that Hogger to just make the audience excited.
Yes, because that's the main important thing here.
Yes,
right?
It's not about the money. It's about the audience thrill of the Tony Hogger dream. Unfortunate, gonna take the taunt. Looking for more triples. Sold out of the Chroma Wing pair.
This is turning into one of those disaster scenarios for Millhouse where you don't quite have at least a triple into a good tempo minion or finding a major domo to try and benefit from the Master of Realities. He's played a ton of elementals this turn. However, does get at least the briny bootlegger in the shop, which is very likely to be golden this turn and can print some money. Definitely not strong in this instance though, whereas we have Summer on the scabs. Just, oh no, sniping the briny bootlegger.
He had the taunt in hand, but instead of getting out of a minion to put the taunt out to try to preserve, it did have to die.
Last trade in the end, just going straight for the 1-drop, not taking a value trade on the minion. Not only is it no golden relevant pirate for Caramon, it's also a lot of damage taken. Meanwhile, check in with Zoenyu. He has hit the double Nomi, hasn't tripled them just yet because it essentially does the same thing as 2 Nomis on board, and he still wanted to have the board space, or rather he still had the board space to play 2 of them, and now he can sell out of the 4/4 and another minion to get 2 of the best elementals on board. The refreshing is so huge to activate the Nomi on board, but however, only 1 gold here, so he'd rather play to a full board and float 1 gold here. Kind of like this. It's such a huge deal that he's also still above the danger zone, so even if he loses this fight, there's no way he goes out, and then he can keep scaling with those Nomis. In terms of beasts and mechs being gone, how do you think this affects the power level of big elementals overall?
Yeah, I think, there is opportunity to get poison from Murloc, so that is a bit scary, but he's in such a good position. His minions are quite large, and we see Silas popping off not necessarily with APM Hogger pirates, but with double Peggy pirates where they just buff each other, and he's just cycling tickets as many as possible. This is a very niche comp that you don't see often, but I'm glad we got to see because it is going to be it's one of those things where he's likely not going to triple Peggy unless he finds another Peggy or another really good pirate to buff with it.
does have a gold grubber in hand, so that's a
That's
potential
true.
even if he triples Peggy. But I find it really cool that he also has like a mini elemental setup here with the refreshing, which means that every Celemental bot is sort of gold saved because it means you get 2 free rolls and it's buffing the Peggies here. Like you said, a very niche comp, and it's actually just out pirating max 70 on the patches here, which has got to be a bad feeling. I hate this whenever I play patches and somebody just has the better pirate setup, and it exactly sets him into the danger zone, potentially dying from damage cap here, but also Zoin Yu in that same trouble position where he could just die to Millhouse.
Zorniu had just faced Test that turn, so I'm curious to know what Test has going on that it was stronger than this board. So Zorniu needs to consider maybe tripling the Nomi so that instead of having 2 weak minions, they have a strong minion. Over here on Test, we have the double pop. Peggy didn't take the Amalgadon because only have 2 types.
Yeah, it's just
Double Peggy Dream.
I know, it's Peggy City, and obviously Tess is likely to pick up more of those the more people in the lobby have the Peggy. And now Babofat is sort of transitioning into a hybrid dragon comp as well here. Double Caligos picked up. That's insane. The Elise buddy here, I don't feel he's ever going to have the board space to truly get value from it because it's a start of turn effect that it adds a recruitment map to your hand. But the key here is to try and find a triple to make some board space and continue cycling. But actually he gets rid of his golden buddy here, not interested in picking up any more of anyone else's buddies, and I think that's wise. It would be prudent, I think, to just play for maximum tempo here when the Elise could be popping off.
Yep, I think he realized, I already found my direction. I don't need to be greedy anymore with this buddy to help me find direction. I am double Caligos. Caligos is one of those heroes that used to be, or minions that used to be so good and just really fell off unless you get to a double Caligos, which he was able to do, thanks in part to this Zephyrus buddy. And now we see Zephyrus, who had that double Nomi so early. Zoinyu, is he going to be able to defeat the Millhouse? He is.
Yeah, pushing Caramon into the danger zone as well. Caramon obviously didn't hit big on his first couple triples, but sort of wiggled himself out of a bad situation by getting the double masters. But like you said, that's our first casualty here in Summer on the Scabs. Very unfortunate, going down from exactly at the damage cap 15. That is a huge deal. And if we're going to Babofat, I'm gonna assume that's the person who killed him. Not sure, but double Peggy, double Caligos. We are just seeing so many hybrid Peggy comps here. It's
Yes, I'm loving it.
Ooh,
another Caligos. Oh my goodness. Can we get another?
Board space. We'll see.
Because the ones that are offered when he hero powers for Caligos, those aren't ones from the shop. So we know there are 7 Caligos available from Bob. But if he gets one from hero powering, that's not going to take away from those 7 available from Bob. So there are a lot of Caligos still out there technically.
All right, I got a question, Sissa. Is this triple on the Warden a bait?
It might be something you wait for next turn to do. You can just buy the brand and hold. But you know, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a vacuum, it doesn't make so much sense because having 2 dragons, especially with Divine Shield, are so valuable to buff separately because you technically get more stats from Caligos. But I'm thinking here that Babofat is really just trying to nail a Discover on Nadina just to consolidate his board even more. He's scared because Collins is so powerful here at 38. I mean, we've been focusing on everybody else because they need the points, but quietly Collins has just been killing it in the lobby once again, potentially ending up with another top 3 position. Has a very nice triple Divine Shield setup with a Gem Splitter. Very good use of Mutinous, but the scaling here comes from mostly Ground Shaker and eating his minions, which is a nice way to sort of make temporary stats from Shaker into permanent, but it looks like this is going to be the end of the line for Max.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that. The points we were talking about earlier, we were focusing on certain people. The player who got 8th place was Summer, who was currently in 2nd place with 8.5 points. So him getting 0 points there is a massive deal. Max 7 key going out and Zoinyu going out. tied with Max 7 key with the Zephyrus Elementals. Just not enough for that Silas, who was playing the fun little Peggy comp over there. Just didn't get there quite fast enough. Nomi does kind of feel like a bait these days. And look at these pirates. I'm so happy. We found the Tony with double golden. Oh my goodness, my heart.
You sort of got your wish here. It's 8 p.m. with double golden Peggy. No Hogger required here. Just go infinite with the buddy of Silas. Starting to tech in some poisons here, which I think is a great use of having that Acolyte still active. The Sephin here probably necessary to create some more threats, because currently Panpada really only has the 2 Peggies as a carry minion. The Tony, to a certain extent, it's just kind of
Tony
permanent here. Yeah, but is that enough against Collins? We did see that Collins didn't necessarily have tons of stats on his minions, but he had the Ground Shaker generation, and that's going to add a lot more attack to the board from turn to turn. We also just have Panpada with basically a Scally comp in hand, but obviously not going to pivot into it. Do you think he's going to end on Eliza or a Selfless Hero?
So I feel like he needs to end on a Ghoul, and he has the money to keep looking, because technically any ticket he buys is free, and this one actually gives him money if he buys this Elemental. But instead just buys another Peggy to end on, to golden a 3rd Peggy for the Peggy Dream, which I just appreciate. He is positioning his small minions first because he knows he did not get a Ghoul, so he has to use these as bumpers versus Mutinous, who you expect to just have a ton of Divine Shields.
That's right. And it's only 2 here. I think Collins sold out of one of his Divine Shields that was previously not scaled very well, so it makes sense. I think this is going to be a pretty convincing win for Panpada here, who has tons of health on his minions. And it's not often you see a Sephin positioned as early as 3rd, but because of the Acolyte, he had very good chances of just getting it automatically poisoned, and then that minion itself could act as avenge fuel for the Tony instead. And now he has that triple golden Peggy you were talking about, dealing tons of damage to Collins in the process. I think Panpada is setting himself up for a potential 1st place.
And going to be put onto one of my favorite players lists too with this build. I mean, how thrilling. And so now we see over here with Millhouse with the double Wraithweaver, meaning anytime recycling, every time he plays an elemental, it's going to give him a free roll. It reduces the cost of rolling by 1, and he has 2 out there. It's one of those cards that's like sometimes better as a pair than a triple when you're playing Millhouse.
All right, I'm putting in an official request to the dev team. Please print a card called Wraithweaver, where it does recycling Wraith, but also when you play an elemental, it gets bigger and damages your hero by 1.
I'm doing my best. Selling out of the Nomi.
Yeah, Nomi out here for Karamon, which makes a lot of sense because honestly, his scaling is not coming from elementals in the shop, but just buffing this huge Master of Realities here and doubling down on the fact that you're Millhouse and you can get a lot of stats just by buying and selling. And the double recycling rates, like you talked about, make sure he can hit elementals very consistently. Unfortunately, doesn't have much board space to buy another Murloc and get value from the Primal Fin. It's really difficult, honestly, to get full Millhouse turns through, especially when you're not able to play on your own server. So challenge for Karamon here is playing as strong as he can because he's facing up against Panpada, who is the current lobby leader.
Oh, is he gonna get the play out? He does. And my fear here is that Murlocs are in, so he has just basically one solid minion that's bigger than the Peggies on the other side, but just dies to poison. And we see that Panpada was able to hit double Amalgadon, both with poison, neither with Divine Shield, keeping my mechs are out, so he cannot fix that, but the stats are just there, and he's going to be able to knock Karamon out into the bottom 4 alongside of Educated Collins, and we now have our top 3.
Yep, tied for 4th and 5th there, which is a huge deal. I wanted to shout out to Karamon there with that very clutch bumper first and then like mid-sized minion second to be able to take out a potential taunted Amalgadon without just sacrificing your Master of Reality straight away. Managed to take some value trades there, but there was simply too much poison and Peggy shenanigans at the end. Good effort, but now it's all about Panpada Balbofat and Bayou. Ponpada and Bayou have had at least one good lobby previously, but Balbofat, this is his first time, I think, settling into the top 4. Is he going to be able to keep up with Bayou? It's been a while since we've seen what Elise is up to, but in terms of stats, this definitely cannot get enough to beat Ponpada.
Yeah, we know that those Peggies have 100 stats or more, and we're seeing that he had a tech card in hand to knock Divine Shields off the Prester Pyrospon, but Peggy's not going to have Divine Shields, as we know, and so now on this side of the board, these are smaller dragons than Peggy, but we have the Divine Shields now, so that is going to basically double their size.
Yeah, as a very rough way of looking at it, they get 2 attacks. So if we can sort of just math it out in our heads, I feel like it'd be very, very close in the end. The Sephin could be clutch here, but we'll see. We do know that Balbofat doesn't necessarily have the tech to get there. I think his Amalgadon didn't have poison either, so it will most likely turn into a Bayou versus Ponpada top 2, I think. There's a Pyrospon, which, like you said, is going to be a big deal to take out that first minion, but I think the Nadina plus the stats here would still put Bayou in the lead.
Yeah, the stats are super important. Just they're so much bigger. Even with the Prester Pyrospon, it's just not enough. Though there is a Murloc on this side with poison. Gonna knock out the biggest minion. So Elise is going to take it, moving Balbofat into 3rd place. And we're gonna see Ponpada and Bayou in our top 2.
Which is going to be good news for Ponpada, I think, where it's the player that had no Amalgadons going up, so no chance to really leverage some poison, because that's Ponpada's only potential weakness here, if he's not just hoarding all the Amalgadons himself, which is what's happening here.
There's a lot of hoarding.
Yeah, this is insane. I've not seen just Peggy without Hogger get this scaled, but it's just completely leveraging the fact that you can get so many free minions in hand as the Sylas with Golden Buddy here. You love to see it. It's a different way of approaching infinite value with Sylas. I think it's going to be a very convincing victory from him with a very creative comp. Ponpada living up to the hype that a lot of the Battlegrounds community has attributed to him.
Yes, I mean, I stand Ponpada now. I am a fan. You've won me over.
You say that because Collins isn't in the running anymore.
Well, I mean,
beginning of the days, Lissa.
We know Collins is going through. We're pretty sure, and you know what? It's when you go to a competition, you always go in with your favorite, but it's so nice to find these new faces. This is our first time that we have a non-invitational big battleground event. We've had so many that were just based on pure invites to the community, and now this one is like just skill. And so we're going to see so many new faces, and I encourage everyone to become a fan of someone new that you've never seen before.
Fada already popping off when he sees the percentages. The players are allowed to have deck trackers as well, so from his perspective, he'll know that he has pretty much 100% in this situation. Knows he goes out with a full 7 points in first place, which is enough, I would say, most likely to offset that lackluster second lobby. And Ponpada, based on his little player trivia that we've gotten before, his play style is known as just unique. He has a nickname from Japan of being the Battlegrounds alien. He just does it like no one else, and that is absolutely what he saw here. A player who at one point achieved 45,000 total MMR across 3 servers. That's absolutely insane. And he does secure himself through to tomorrow. It looks like we're not going to have to go through the tiebreaker rules because there is a clear distinction. Collins in first place, followed by Bayou from China, Ponpada from Japan, and Balbofat from EU.
We have one of
in
each.
There. Exactly.
One from each region are moving on to tomorrow.
Very, very cool stuff. Lobby A goes out with equal representation from our 4 main regions, but in the end, it is Collins who comes out on top with a second into a first, into a respectable 4.5 as well. Just very consistent play. Like you said, he is reserved and knows when to go for greed when possible, and I think all his prep has absolutely paid off here. But I want to award Most Creative Player Award to Panpada. Is that fair, Slissa?
I think this is fair. I will agree with that. Big fan, very proud of what he was able to show off today. Yeah, new fan in me.
Yeah. And then shout out, of course, to Bayou as well. We were comparing him a little bit to Collins. Those are Benaj's words, not mine, but he has been known to be one of the more confident players in China, apparently, who is fine with taking the power level stance. Maybe that playstyle is not so appropriate in the buddy meta, but definitely confidence overall is super important in a tournament like this where you're faced up against the greats. Knowing that you have what it takes and believing in yourself is a huge part of the recipe to success. And then finally, rounding out our top 4 from Lobby A, we have Babofat, who is admittedly one of the wild cards of the tournament. Anything that you picked up when asking him some questions, Lissa?
Yeah, he just seems like a very humble guy, and I mean, I did get to spectate him recently for the Watchstone, so trying to get into the tournament for next time around, trying to get an invite there, and he's very fun to watch play. He plays Silas a lot. I think I've seen him play Silas quite a few times, and just very consistent, but he just overall seems like a nice, humble guy.
Absolutely love to see it. 4 players, 1 from each region, going through to tomorrow where we will be entering the Czech format as well, but that's only half of our action from the day over, Slissa. We still have 3 games to be played out for Lobby B, the other half of our top 16, which also features 2 players from every region, so always someone to cheer for. Still, I want to shout out our players that didn't, unfortunately, manage to make it through to tomorrow. Zoe Yu, a big favorite from the LATAM community and was looking super strong at the beginning, but unfortunately couldn't pull it together. And Karamon, who is a very famous in Japan player who has written a dictionary for how to play different heroes and has definitely contributed a lot to the community. Can you talk a little bit about the other 2 as well, Slissa?
Oh, yes. If I can remember their names really fast. So we had Max Sevenkey from the Russian community, has very strong ladder finishes, but unfortunately just it wasn't his day today. And our final player was from the Americas, right?
Oh, I said Zonyo.
Oh, you said Zonyo.
I'm so sorry. That's my fault for putting you on the spot there.
It was our Chinese player, Summer. And I believe he was our youngest player, right?
Yeah, that's right. We managed to find some background info on him, and apparently he is only 18 years old, which is amazing. Some of the historic champions in Hearthstone, constructed at least, have been teenagers, so I feel he has many, many years and potential ahead of him to improve even more. Of course, this is our only first Lobby Legends of the year, still so many to be played out, and the qualification will continue. That is definitely not the last we've seen of those 4 players, but right now we have our top 4 from Lobby A cemented. After this short break, we will be seeing who are the other 4 to join them from Lobby B. Do not go anywhere. Right after this, we'll be back with the second half of the day.